Welcome, everyone. This is Pat Bailey, Director of Training at Out and Equal Workplace Advocates. We'd like to welcome you to our 2014 Virtual Summit Series. This is the fifth of our 6 calls. This is a broadcast audio, so you should be hearing us over your computer. Be sure to turn up your speakers or your headsets if you can't hear us for the volume. You can communicate with us by chatting. The chat box is over on the left-hand side. Type in, and our presenters will be able to see that. If you have questions, we'll keep track of those, and we'll make sure that those get asked and discussed. If you have to leave for some reason, the session will be recorded and it will be available after the series ends. We send out an email that lets everybody know the link and the slides, so you can get that and share it with your folks in the workplace. So today we're going to, on our virtual summit, we're going to be talking about the Clorox journey, LGBT marketing and innovation, and we'll talk some more about our presenters as they begin to introduce themselves. But a few announcements about things coming up with Out and Equal. We've got our monthly town call that is actually this. We combine these. So if you're looking for another session this month, our town call and virtual summit got combined. Executive Forum is coming up here in San Francisco, March 24th through 26th. I think the deadline may have passed, but if you know of an executive who is out as LGBT and might be interested in attending, reach out and contact us right away, and there might be still a spot or two left. There's also an emerging leader class. And then that week of training ends up with our Momentum Gala here in San Francisco. And we're actually going to do a workshop this year talking about brands and branding yourself before the Momentum on Thursday afternoon. Starting in April, we're going to start our Out and Equal University fee-for-service courses, and we're going to start with building bridges. Probably that first one's going to be free. We're hoping to have that on our new LMS, and it'll be a slightly different way of doing the class, so we're looking forward to that, of using our new learning management system. And then next month, April 30th, we're going to have our last and final virtual summit, and that will be on global mobility and the cost of inconsistency. Also, lots of things coming up over the next month in terms of town calls. And then, of course, in Dallas, October 5th through 8th for the summit. So let's get a little idea from you as the audience. We've got about 50 folks that have called in so far. Have you seen that you've been an active targeting of the LGBT audience by your company? Click on the answer and hit submit, and you'll be able to see the answers there. So the choices are, yes, we have as a company done that. Not that I've seen. We're planning on it. No plans to target, not sure, not applicable, and other. If there's some other things you're doing, chat in. Those answers are coming in there. It looks like about 40% of everybody right now are doing some good marketing outreach. Next up, not that you've seen yet. Give everybody just a minute or two more to get that in. Looks like we've got about 3/4 everybody has voted so far. And yeah, the numbers are holding pretty much that 40% have, 28.9 haven't, but there is some plans in the future that happens. So thank you and appreciate those votes from everybody. The next poll that we're going to do is about a strongly agree or disagree poll. So if you have a hard time reading that, you can expand your screen up to full size with the little square up in the top right corner. So my company has a strong, clear marketing plan to reach out to the LGBT community. How would you rate your agreement and rate your company in terms of how they're doing? Go ahead again, click on the spot on the dot and hit it, and we'll be able to see the results. Looks like we've got a pretty good over 50% either disagree or strongly disagree, and that's going up almost 60% now in terms of that. So this is sounds like we're in a good place to begin this this webinar with us. So again, Clorox is going to share some of their expertise, and I'm going to turn it over to Riza on the first slide there. So Riza, all yours.
So what I'd like to do is just really quickly introduce the folks who are on the call for you. So I'm Riza Rahman. I'm a VP of R&D and Innovation for Clorox. And what I'll do is really quickly let the other three introduce themselves. So Ken?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Ken McClellan, the Technical Partnerships Leader for the Clorox Company, also in R&D with Riza.
Sarah, why don't you?
I'm Sarah Mora, an Associate Marketing Manager working on home care innovation.
And Will?
Hi, Will Melendez. I'm an Associate Marketing Manager at the Burt's Bees business in Durham, North Carolina.
Great. So what we want to take you through today, and it's a little bit more of a challenge on a webinar to make it as interactive as we would like, but what we want to take you through very briefly is the Clorox journey, and as the results of that poll just a few seconds ago now show, it's sometimes difficult to get to a place where you can say that your company has a strong, positively aligned focus on LGBT marketing. And that's the journey that we at Clorox have been focused on. And it's not for lack of conviction on the part of the company, but as something that you guys have probably recognized is in a world where you can target 1 million different sub-targets, how do you build a conviction that targeting LGBT audiences is not just the right thing to do, but makes good business sense? So just really quickly, in terms of what we're going to do is we're going to take you through a very, very quick primer of the Clorox company and who we are, help you to understand our journey on diversity inclusion, a little bit about the history of Clorox Pride, who we are, how we started, and where we're headed, and then connect this to how does the LGBT help to drive business results for the company.
Great, thank you, Rita. So as promised, we will start with a little history on the Clorox company. And as you can see on your screen here, we've been around for a while. We're a 102-year-old Fortune 500 company. We were very much a mom and pop start. What you see in the middle is a picture of downtown Oakland. And we did get our start in that city in the Bay Area of California and continue to have our corporate headquarters in Oakland. Also, probably needless to say that our primary product for much of our history, really the first 50 years of our history, was Clorox bleach. We were acquired by Procter & Gamble in 1959 and then divested in 1968. And with that divestiture, really did start to grow beyond just bleach as a laundry additive or a household cleaning product into what you see here on the next slide. We've grown quite a bit, both with regards to our sales, with our global presence, and with the brands. Now, consumers or those of you on the call might associate us with some cleaning brands which you see here, such as 409 and maybe Liquid Plumber, but you can also see we've gone pretty far beyond that into the brands you see. So very exciting journey for us, and that includes a journey into international. International is now a little over 1/5 of our total sales. We've produced in over 25 countries, sell in over 100, and really challenging is the fact that a little over 2/3 of that are in emerging markets, not developed markets. So for those that work for companies that are global as well, you can appreciate the challenges associated with that. Finally, on this slide, our mission, which is the first thing you see when you open up the Clorox website, making everyday life better every day. So that's a little bit about Clorox, and I'm going to shift gears to our diversity and inclusion program. You'll see a picture of our CEO in a few slides here, actually our former CEO, Don Knaus, who joined us in 2006, and he very quickly got together a number of company leaders and pulled a lot of folks in the organization to begin to develop a growth strategy. We called it the Centennial Strategy, and it basically provided markers on where we wanted to be for our centennial, which was 2 years ago. Now we're 102 years old. And as that was being finalized, he did something which was rather remarkable at the time. And unfortunately for a lot of organizations, a lot of companies, the culture strategy, the people strategy does tend to be an afterthought or something that gets kind of added to the end of things. In this particular case, before Don even announced what the plans were, he moved the people strategy right up front, very strongly and passionately declared it as the #1 strategy for the company to reach those centennial goals. And the thinking here was this, that Clorox, given our makeup, given our headquarters in the Bay Area, given the fact we have manufacturing around the world or even within the U.S. to just about every region of the U.S., we're a very diverse company if you look at our makeup. And he saw that diverse makeup and diversity as a strength and wanted to really focus on that. He realized, as did everyone else in the leadership team that communicated and helped run that without Clorox people, the strategy wasn't going to happen because it was a very aggressive growth strategy. And through that did create ERGs, our Pride ERG being one of 5 that was created in 2006. And the icon you see to the right of this slide really encapsulates the thinking behind this better than what I just described. So at the core of it all is a culture of inclusion. And what you have around that is a virtuous cycle. So we really work hard to attract, recruit, and retain top talent that have the right mix. We work on our engagement and our relationships and our organization, employing such approaches as an inverted pyramid and, very honest and capable leadership and leadership behaviors to make the mix work, and then take those strengths and integrate that into the business results, and ultimately, of course, our consumers, which drive our decision making. And then it repeats itself. So it goes from inclusion to engagement to business results. Brilliant piece of work on the part of Don and the leadership team, and I'm happy to report that in 2013 we did achieve our growth strategy. So that's the diversity and inclusion approach, and now I want to talk a little more specifically about Clorox Pride and what a wild ride it's been. In 2006, as I shared, we got our start. We received our first 100% HRC rating, and we've received 100% ever since. There's a handful of Fortune 5 companies that have done so. We are one of them. And we heard about Out and Equal, so we attended Out and Equal in 2007, and then had so much fun, we attended again the next year, but brought our CEO, Don. So I mentioned Don earlier in this talk, and there he is. So he is no longer a CEO. He did retire. He's still our executive chairman, and very active in Clorox still. Fantastic leader. Don is someone who we did not have to ask or twist his arm at all to attend this event, participate as a keynote speaker, or attend other events either. In fact, he would go out of his way to do what he felt was right for our Pride organization. He did it for the other ERGs as well, but I know that the Pride group had a soft spot in his heart, and that was reflected in his leadership, in his behavior, and his language. In 2010, we did achieve the Out and Equal ERG award, and also Walmart's Pride MLK Visionary Award. That was also a bit of a breakthrough and a bit of a sneak peek on what you're going to learn about for the rest of our time together. We brought Carson Cressley in as a spokesperson, an online promotion spokesperson for one of our products, a laundry product called Clorox 2. And in fact, we bumped into him at the Out and Equal Summit the year before. So it was great to have him involved in a Clorox product, and that really did get people thinking more about Pride and the ERG and how that can tie to business results. The following year, during June, which is our Pride Month, we had a great event, which was a bit of a play on words with InEvent. So the Pride event was called Gain Event. InEvent is a employee-led, an employee-managed and participated idea contest, essentially, on how to grow Clorox's business through innovation. And it was a fantastic event, very well supported and attended. And it really got us thinking, rather than just do the play on words, what more can we do to make Pride and the objectives of Pride, more deeply integrated and embedded into Clorox's business. So the very next year, in that InEvent contest that I just described, we did pitch an integrated marketing strategy, which included all of our consumers, including our LGBT consumer. And it was one of the finalists. It was approved, and we're going to talk a bit about the details of that. I don't want to steal my team's thunder in this presentation. Other events in 2012, Tom Johnson was elected to the Out and Equal board. He's currently our VP of Global Business Services and was the first leader of our ERG. And also very much a breakthrough for us, and we still are benefiting from the results of it. Clorox as a company did publicly create a new definition of diversity, and it really kind of laddered up above any differences associated with race, gender, color, sexual orientation, physical limitations, and basically said, we're an organization where everyone can bring their whole self to work every day. And that's something that's very important to our LGBT community. It's very important to all of us, and it's been reflected by the energy that we all bring to work here at Clorox. And then to wrap things up on this slide, in 2013, we are continuing to make inroads into identifying LGBT as a consumer, as a business objective. We're going to talk a bit about that. And we've expanded our recruiting efforts as well. Out for Work, we're specifically targeting product supply, R&D, and IT resources that are a part of that network to work on our bringing in the right people for Clorox. So that is the journey, and I'm going to hand it back over to Riza to talk through our company's objectives, goals, strategies, and measures.
Yeah, so what I wanted to do in the next couple of slides is just give you an idea of how we frame the mission of Clorox Pride. And so as we look at it, our mission is to create a proud and accepting environment while LGBTA people drive a competitive business advantage for Clorox. And we do this by ensuring our LGBTA workforce is engaged, empowered, and visible. And so we took we actually had an OGST before, and we really said, okay, let's just pull it apart and look at it in terms of some very, very simple, what are we trying to achieve? And so as you look at it, the first thing that is say, okay, so what are your proof points for your mission? What tells you that you have that mission in sight? And so what we want to be is we want to be someone who's on the cutting edge of getting LGBT initiatives in marketing, and certainly in the consumer products world, this has not really taken the same kind of traction it has in some of the other vectors of things like Volkswagen in cars, for instance. We want to remain a leader among our peers in terms of LGBT workplace rights, and that doesn't just mean making sure that we keep a 100 score, even as the criteria for the 100 on HRC keep evolving. And then we want to really take our employee passion for marketing to LGBT consumers. So how do we actually bring that to life and not just be something that we aspire to? So as we looked at it, we said the first thing that we need to do is we need to make Pride more vibrant, because if we're going to do anything, we need to have a group that's strong and vibrant. And so what we said is we're going to develop and execute against an ally engagement strategy. And really what this came down to is, for a while, after it was formed, and then in the years afterwards, Clorox Pride became an organization that had a lot of people in the follower category, but it was the usual suspects who were doing the heavy lifting and the work. And we said, hey, how do we get people energized and really involved? And so the two things on that were the ally engagement strategy and really engaging our own LGBT community more fully. And then we had to decide, how do we foster the ERG, which had been very Bay Area centric, into multiple geographic sites. And the fact that Will's on the call today from Durham is probably a testament to the fact that we've managed to do that. And further on, I think Sarah will help you to understand that the passion with which that's been taken up at multiple sites. We want to become recognized in industry as a leader for LGBT causes, and so the Trevor Project was one that we took up, and we did an It Gets Better video. And then finally, we want to really have the Pride event every year be an anchor event that the entire company looks to and anticipates. So once we've made Pride strong, what do we want to do with it? So the first thing to do with it is to make Pride more valuable to Clorox as a company. And this is really where we want to say, how do we take the LGBT diversity connection that we have and drive business results? And how do we enhance Clorox's community image? And so, we want to use LGBT insights to drive marketing, because clearly the LGBT community has a different set of consumer insights than broad market. And we want to continue to benchmark our policies and make sure that we keep the company at the cutting edge. And then finally, we want to be involved in our local community. So things like Mix, Mingle, and Give, and a very, very strong presence in the San Francisco affiliate of Out and Equal. The next thing that we want to do with Pride is to make Pride more valuable to the Pride members themselves, to the employees, and to the community. And so what we've done is we've created a skill set that allows for employees and those around them to bring their whole self to work. And part of that is by providing leadership opportunities within the work that we do in Pride that helps people to grow, and also making it very, very clear through mentorship and through role modeling that bringing your whole self to work is actually a positive and a career-enhancing thing rather than the opposite. We do recruit. We've had LGBT recruiting efforts, and then keeping a presence in Out and Equal and allowing our Pride members to interact with their peers in different companies, we see as a real benefit in terms of career development as well. So now, as we take a look at it, I'm going to hand it over to Sarah. She talks about that first one, which is making Pride more vibrant, and she talks about the ally strategy.
Thanks, Riza. So I'm going to start on this slide by just reading this ally mission aloud to everyone. So it's to identify, educate, and activate a company-wide A-team to unify the organization in support of diversity. And the first thing you'll probably notice is there's no mention of LGBT in this ally mission statement at all, and that was purposeful. And the reason that we did that is we had a plan to roll this idea out in future years. So if we start with year one, what Pride did is we had a plan to develop and introduce this A-team. So A-team standing for Ally Team. And this was our test and learn timing, and we did this by having the annual June Pride event be focused on A-team activation. And I'll talk a little bit more about the success of that in a second. And then our goal for year two was to expand this to have a corporate A-team. So as we mentioned earlier, there are several different ERGs that we have at Clorox, and we thought that this ally mission was actually applicable to all ERGs. And the idea that every ERG could have more allies to help support their mission, and we wanted to make it very clear that you didn't have to be a member to self-identify as a member of an ERG in order to actively participate. So what we did, I'll now build out, sorry, one sec, the next slide. So what we did for our A-team, our mission that we have here, and our growth idea was to build an ERG ally engagement strategy by igniting awareness about the roles that allies play. And so we wanted to make it very clear for allies that they were not only welcome, but encouraged to join Clorox Pride. And so we identified what some of the growth barriers would be for us to activate this A-team. And the first one was, how do we create more allies? The second one was, how can we encourage allies to help in their own way, knowing that some allies are the ones that are going to be a little bit more conservative, maybe don't want to get up and stand and yell at the top of their lungs about LGBT rights. And then there's, of course, those who are outside and more active. And so we wanted to encourage allies that they could help in any way that they deem fit. And then finally, how do we inspire allies to help more? So wherever they are along their growth trajectory, how do we encourage them to be a more active supporter of Clorox Pride? So we decided that the best way to do this was this A-team kickoff. And so this would be a focus on these three growth barriers. So the first thing we did was develop this Clorox Allied logo. And this logo was to serve as a way for anyone to identify themselves in the building or in all of the remote sites. So we had a June Pride event, and the first thing we did was think of identifiers. So we had stickers, badges, everyone on the A-team was wearing a T-shirt, and our goal was really to get it very noticeable that we were actively recruiting for allies. And so by making it visible, we all wear badges every day, and so then you just knew when you see people around the office, we had this logo flooding all of the different offices, both here in Oakland, in Pleasanton, and at all of our remote sites as well. And so our goal was, as we mentioned from the mission, to educate. So one of the things that we did is we debuted an ally video, and all of us on the call, we were participants in this video, and everyone spoke about why being an ally was important to them. We put it together into a video and shared that at the kickoff event, and then we also distributed resources. So the three things that we talked about was an Ally 101 guide, what does it mean to be an ally? Talk the talk guide, so what type of verbiage to use, what are the right lingo to get people more comfortable, and then the 4-step guide to being a Clorox ally. So taking someone from the early stage of just awareness that they want to be an ally all the way to advocacy. And then our next goal was to activate. And so this was a huge success for Clorox Pride. It was our biggest ERG event that we had ever had. We had 250 people participate nationwide and 25 new ally leaders that were helped to bring this event together. And we feel like this idea of inclusion is really a focus. It helps to drive our innovation as well. And so the idea that bringing in diversity of thought will really help us grow as a business as well. And so this relates to the other another pillar that Riza had mentioned is to make pride more valuable at Clorox. And so I want to talk a little bit more about business results. So we talked earlier about the journey that we've been on, and we had GAIN event in 2011. And so the ERG journey that we've been on is first cultural awareness that we should have the Clorox Pride ERG. The next one being talent development, trusted advisors, and then business advocates. So our journey has followed this path. I'll just build out now. And in 2013, we included LGBT consumers in our litter segmentation. And that was really important because that helps inspire the business, and we wanted to make these LGBT insights have business results as well. And in 2014, we secured actual funding, so real money to use towards a test and learn to actually target LGBT consumers.
Great.
And so, oh yeah, go ahead.
I'll take the, just a real quick refresher on the LGBT consumer, because part of this is, as you think about having your company embrace LGBT marketing, so why should they, right? Apart from we all want them to, what's in it for them? And so really, a quick refresher on the LGBT consumer. So the number of U.S. adults that self-identify as LGBT is 25 million, and a lot of us believe that's a relatively conservative number. More importantly, that 25 million has $800 billion in total buying power, which at $35,000 a person means that the buying power of the average LGBT person is roughly equal to the household income of those in the country. So we skew more affluent in general. The actual annual CPG spending is 25% higher than the average. So that's the disposable income turning into buying power. And they're more likely to buy a brand that markets to LGBTs, which seems painfully obvious to us, but isn't always as obvious to, hey, if you target us and you treat us with respect, we will respond. More importantly, 70% of LGBT people say they would pay more for products that are marketed by LGBT-friendly companies. And as we now think from a Clorox point of view, and we think of what we call our mega trends, which are health and wellness and sustainability and affordability, there are LGBT tailwinds that help us for all of them. And so what that leads to is that there are a number of Clorox brands that are uniquely positioned for LGBT audiences. So if we look at our health and wellness mega trend, 41% of LGBT respondents say they're likely to pay more for their health. And 26% say they're more likely to consider their diet to be very healthy. If you look at sustainability, 20% of LGBT consumers say they're more likely to make purchases that reduce their environmental impact. And they're twice as likely to make a purchase decision based on the environment. And then finally, if you look at convenience, 41% of LGBT respondents are more likely to live in urban areas, and they have a high engagement with digital and social media. So if you think about it, what we wanted to do is we wanted to be inspired by the companies that have preceded us, because there are a number, and Will's going to take you through a fun exercise in a couple of minutes to see how many of them you can identify, and take that into a space where we haven't had as much progress and really take it forward. So with that, I'll hand it over to Will.
Will, would you like me to go through the guessing the brands first?
Sure. And then I'll just go ahead and talk a little bit about Burt's Bees.
Okay, great. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the interactive features of our presentation. And in the lower left-hand side of your screen, you should see a chat feature. And before I turn the slide, I'll tell you what we're going to do, and then you can just type in what you think your answer is to that chat feature, and I'll say who got it right. So we're going to share some examples of advertising that we've seen in the marketplace from a variety of different brands and want to see if you can tell what they are. So we're starting pretty easy, and here is our first example. You can type into the bottom. Oh, all right, they're coming in. The first one I got is Morgana Bailey, and then about 15 other Oreo responses. So yes, this one is Oreo. Great job, everybody. Now we'll go to the next one, if we know what this one is. Smirnoff, that is correct. And we have Francesca Vanderwall, got that one correct first as Smirnoff. Some people don't drink, that's okay. And then here's the next one. Michael Dodd got it correct first with Marriott. A couple other good guesses, but Marriott's the correct one for this one. And our next one. Ray-Ban, Jesse Dunbar, that is correct. And we'll go to the next one. Francesca again with Allstate, that is correct. Allstate is the next one. We've got a couple more. Here's the next one. Southwest, that is correct. Michael Payne, good guessing. And here's the next one. Okay, we got a bunch of guesses. Roger Miller, Tylenol. Yes, Tylenol PM. That is correct. And two more. Here's the second to last one. We've got a couple guesses that are in the hotel space, but not the right one yet. Hotel space is correct. We got a few guesses for Hilton and Radisson, but Hyatt. Sabine Blake, you got it with Hyatt is the correct answer. And our very last one, Paul Jennings is correct with Wells Fargo. All right, thank you everyone for participating. We weren't sure how that would work out, but great job. Got lots of awesome answers and commentary. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Will to talk about our Burt's Bees case study.
Great, thanks, Sarah. So as Riza and Sarah mentioned, one of Clorox Pride tenets is to make Pride more valuable to Clorox. And one of the opportunities that the Pride Network identified to achieve this objective is to continue to push for the use of LGBT insights in marketing and in product development. And the team has been able to push and earn funding for an LGBT test and learn idea, as Sarah mentioned, to support and engage LGBT consumers in a meaningful way through our brands in a variety of channels, from social and digital messaging, local event sponsorships and advertising, such as the Bay Area Pride, and even in-store testing. And the intention of an LGBT test is to allow for us to measure these tactics to quantify the return by driving LGBT engagement. So I'll walk you through a potential test and learn idea to get your feedback on whether this idea meets the objective of driving consumer share growth while supporting and engaging LGBT consumers in a meaningful way. And if not, gauge your feedback on how the idea could be pivoted to better meet the objective. So when I arrived at Burt's Bees a little over a year ago, and the business challenge that we were facing at the time was mainly on our lip balm business, which is the flagship business for the brand. So it had been experiencing share declines mainly due to the launch of EOS, which is that little egg-shaped lip balm that I'm sure many of you have seen, even used. I'm sure your kids have been playing with, collecting all the different colors. So we've seen that as a competitive threat to our overall business. So given the share loss, Burt's Bees' share growth strategy centered around 3 particular objectives. So the first one is attracting new households by raising awareness of our existing lip balm flavors. We did a consumer study and we found that only 1/3 of consumers who are aware of Burt's Bees lip balm know that we have flavors beyond our flagship flavor, which is beeswax, which was a shocking insight that we ended up learning, but really ended up driving a lot of the activation that we've been doing this year. So the second objective is accelerating growth with younger consumers. So EOS has actually dominated the younger consumer segment, so they've been able to grow the entire category by targeting these younger consumers. So how do we do it in a relevant and a meaningful way? And the third objective is winning by releasing relevant and on-trend flavors. So these 3 objectives is essentially the pillars to the overall Burt's Bees strategy. So a small group of us here at Burt's Bees came up with a LGBT test and learn idea that could help address the first objective in particular of attracting new households by raising awareness of existing flavors and supporting the overall lip balm strategy. But before I share the idea, I just wanted to share a little bit about the Burt's Bees brand. So we have over 10 flavors of lip balm, just to name a few. I'm sure you'll be surprised, but we have pomegranate, honey, pink grapefruit, and vanilla, coconut, and pear, and wild cherry are some of the newer flavors that we've been able to release that we've seen a lot of success in the marketplace. And as I mentioned earlier, we found in consumer research that only 1/3 of consumers know that we have flavors beyond beeswax, which is an interesting insight that we've used to develop our overall campaign idea for this past year, which is uncap your flavor. So, excuse me, our campaign idea was uncap your flavor to help drive awareness of our lip balm variety. As you can see in the slide, let me build that up for you. Our previous print messaging focused on our beeswax flavors versus our new print ad, which focuses on flavor variety. We also refreshed our brand architecture. So previously, our packaging focused messaging around benefits by flavor. And what I mean by that, instead of showcasing vanilla bean and pumpkin spice, as you see here, clearly communicated on pack, this flavor box included messaging like refreshing, hydrating, replenishing, which after consumer research, we found that it means absolutely nothing to consumers as they're looking for flavor first and that their balms actually moisturize. And just to give you a little bit of background on our brand tone, EOS has partnered with celebrities such as Miley Cyrus to be the face of the brand, whereas Burt's Bees has developed several PR partnerships with Ellen, which I may be a little biased, gives you a sense of what our brand personality is like. We're fun and quirky just like Ellen, so it seems to kind of make sense for the brand. So this year we launched our first ever TV video campaign, which I'll share with you guys on how we brought up uncap flavor to life.
Discover all the naturally moisturizing flavors of Burt's Bees Lip Balm.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that video just as much as I did. This is our first foray into TV video since the brand launched 30 years ago. So now that you understand a little bit of our business issue, our objectives, and got a feel for the brand, I just wanted to share a potential LGBT test and learn idea, which we'd love your input on. So you'll see on the screen an image of a rainbow made up entirely of lip balms. This image was used for a social media post on National Rainbow Day. Now, I never knew prior to coming to Burt's that such a day existed, but I was very excited to know that there was a National Rainbow Day. It made me smile. So when I first saw this image, I gathered several of the other LGBTA folks from the office and asked how we could make this execution bigger and relevant to the LGBTA community. So we came up with an idea of creating an art installation in our actual office here in Durham of the pride flag or even the rainbow made up entirely of a variety of lip balm flavors. We have every color of the pride that represents each color of the pride flag. And in regards to execution, our thought was to video record the creation of the pride flag under the campaign idea of uncap your flavor, uncap your natural self, and post this video through social and showcase BERT's support of the LGBT community, which ultimately ladders to the overall business objective of driving household penetration through awareness of our lip balm flavors, and can live beyond social, as this idea could be seen in-store in a retailer like Whole Foods, who creates customized displays that match brand campaign themes. And this idea could also live with local event sponsorships and cause marketing beyond, let's say, June Pride Month. So we have 3 questions that I'd like to ask you guys and would love your feedback on if you would use your chat box. So just kind of quickly, what did you like about this idea? Right now I see silence, so I don't know if you're so excited that you can't even type, or you're just not even excited about it at all.
We got one, the creativity of using
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks, Roger. So creativity, okay, great. Colorful, the uncap you idea. Great. So that's pretty much kind of consistent with when we've shared this idea before. So some of the feedback we've received is straightforward, ties to core values, it's creative, the brand walks the walk with this particular idea. So the second question I'd like to share, and if you can use your chat box also, what do you think can be improved upon? Yeah, the rainbow makes me happy too, Warren, thank you. And it's okay. You will not hurt my feelings if you tell me it could be improved upon.
Yep. So
bringing the consumer more into the story.
Yeah, and interestingly, one of the things I'll share from when we actually did this at Summit, there was a really interesting set of feedback because we had a wide variety of people. We probably had 200 people in the room, and the feedback divided based on age. And so for those of us who are perhaps like me in the not quite as young category anymore, the rainbow means something really positive and really symbolizes a struggle that we've had for a long time. And a lot of the, fairly young, I would say probably early mid-20-somethings in the audience were like, the rainbow is tired. It's not what I identify with. And so this actually started a dialogue. So, okay, so how would you connect BERTs to the LGBT community? And one of the ideas that we got, which I thought was fascinating, was, well, BERTs is a natural brand. Love is natural. And so that was kind of the feedback that we got that really took something and took it to a completely different place than we'd intended.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And in that session, there were several campaign ideas that came to life. Another one is there's always room for any bee in our hive, which I think is fantastic. And consumers ended up being attracted to a messaging that tugs more at the emotional heartstrings. And while they appreciate the visual representation of the rainbow, definitely this love family message came to life as something that people found very meaningful. So I'm going to leave my email address in the box right there. Your input is very valuable if you like this idea or you thought it could be expanded out even further, just because, any feedback is a gift, and I appreciate the feedback. So I'm going to turn it back.
I love that idea of a more daring campaign. Perhaps a print ad where a guy notices a cute guy and decides, ooh, I need to use my pomegranate Burt's Bees. Love it. So Pat, I think you were going to start reading out some of the questions that have been called out so we can try and get to them.
Sounds good, and there's some great comments coming in from everybody. One of the questions that was asked, it was a little bit off subject, but Ken, I know you can speak to that a little bit. How have you done this around your Six Sigma or your continual improvement? How does that kind of work? How does this process work into that?
Sure. Thanks, Roger, for the question. So as far as, the original question was, do we use these programs at Clorox? And in a word, yes. As Fortune 500 CPG. We've got incredible pressures most for-profit companies do these days, but the consumer packaged goods space in particular, given the categories that we play in and the products we have in them, we have very high expectations to produce, high quality, high value at the right price for the consumer, repeatable manufacturing solutions. But as you go back and look at the range of brands we have, and if you can imagine all the different manufacturing locations and environments and supply chain designs, we wouldn't be where we are today without Six Sigma and without an expectation of continuous improvement as well as actual programs in it. So how has that been applied to, away from the manufacturing environment and towards our ERGs? I would say, part of Clorox's culture is continuous improvement. We have a very good relationship with our consumers, with our retailers, with Wall Street, whereby every year we deliver a steady drumbeat of improvement on our results, on our share price, on the structural cost savings that we deliver, and our employees expect it as well. This is a place to work where you have to work hard, but the culture turns that into something that, as I said at the beginning of my intro, a place where people can bring their whole self to work every day. Continuous improvement is one of the spirits that got us to where we are.
And I think just to add to that, we now have, because of technology, the ability to cut consumer responses by segment. So not only do we have our own consumer comments that come into us all the time, but a lot of our products, including Burt's Bees, are sold on Amazon. And any of you who've used Amazon know that the people on Amazon live and die by their ratings, and we can now look at the ratings and cut them by LGBT, we can cut them by age. And so that allows us to look at demographics, look at targeting, and look at how we might bring out products that resonate even more strongly with a particular demographic.
That's great. That's some good stuff. Sarah, there was a question that I had back when you were talking about creating the A-Team, and there was a lot of visual, media that you got where you were there. What were you doing on the digital side? Was there a rollout that you were working on digitally as well, or on your intranet, or how were people getting to know about this?
On our intranet, we posted that we were going to have the A-Team event, and what day it was, and we're encouraging people to come. And so that was the one big kickoff day in June. But we also had what we called lobbying events, and that was just to get the momentum going. And so a lot of companies I know have a cafeteria or an entry lobbyway. And so what we did is in our cafeteria, or whatever is the main gathering space of each of the offices, we had people there talking about the event and encouraging them to go to the actual the kickoff event in June in person. So we talked about those lobby events as well as the kickoff events on our intraweb. And then all of our resources that we mentioned, the Ally Guide, the Talk the Talk Guide, those were all available digitally as well. And so we sent those out to all of the new allies that joined.
And so you really had to do a lot of networking to have it in all your locations, right?
Yeah. I would say the lobbying events was really to get the momentum and get people excited about coming to the main event. And we collected email addresses from people then so that we could reach out to them with these resources. And then the final digital thing that we did is we had a board that had our Clorox logo behind it. And we had these basically these whiteboards where people could write with markers on it that had the Clorox logo, the Pride logo, and said, why I'm an ally because, and then people filled it out and then took a picture. And so we thought that having people actually state why they were an ally and then take a picture, it was more of a public recognition of why they were an ally. And we had everyone in the company up to the CEO participate in that by taking a picture and making a stand for why they were an ally. So we have all those digital assets as well.
All right, that's great. There was some question Roger asked about, what have you been doing about print advertising? But can you talk about the strategies of where do you reach and where do you want this target market to go and these ads to go? Has there been a priority one over the other?
Yeah. So again, if you think about where the world is going to, what we want to do is we want to find a way of marrying much more targeted and honestly much cheaper ways of communicating with the broad umbrella communication like the uncap your flavor that Burt's is using. And so part of the test and learn is to look at these various avenues, mostly digital, but we may play with print as well. and say, hey, based on the amount of spend, what is the return on the investment? How many impressions are we getting? How strong do we think those impressions are? And how might we convert those impressions into purchases? And so really the whole idea of the journey that we're on right now in terms of where we're at is to figure out how we understand the differential return of investment on the different tactics that we might use, prove to the company that they are good compared to the other differential ROIs they can have from segmented targeting, and move that forward. So at this point, I can't tell you whether it will be print or it will be a certain kind of digital that emerges, but they're all in play.
Great. And you mentioned the ROI piece. I mean, how are you kind of calculating that? I mean, what's your measurements? What are you looking for? What's your goals on that?
So there are lots of different ways of doing it. So we currently have, what we're trying to do is to be consistent with the way the rest of the company does it. And so we have our digital marketing that looks at impressions from our current Clorox marketing campaigns. And what we want to do is to benchmark the ROI from the LGBT marketing efforts against our norm for general market. And so it will be, in some cases, it will be impressions. In some cases, it will be targeted impressions. It can be number of clicks. It can be how long someone stays on it. So all of the normal ways that people use to do digital, because we don't want to reinvent, a new method of measuring it.
And I bet with, like, Burt's Bees would be perfect to give away at Pride. I can imagine that would just be a highlight, that everybody would be looking for that as a Pride giveaway kind of thing, too.
Let's put it this way. We have not had a summit that we have been at where we've not run out of Burt's Bees giveaways at our booth.
I know.
Yeah.
I carry them in my pocket as well. Especially
And the amount of looks I get of people looking at me like, you ran out, and I feel terrible because I have no more to give.
Justin asked a quick question about, is there a way to get copies of the A-Team guides that you created for that event?
Yes, there is. Julie?
So Julie Asco is our connection to that. And at this point, I really want to acknowledge, so the idea for activating our A-Team actually came from a presentation that was made the year before at Summit by Target. And so we stole with pride from Target, and they helped us along with this. They have made some of their materials available to us, which we tailored to suit Clorox, and we would be happy to make them available to anyone else who wants to tailor them to their own use.
So Justin, if you could, I was going to say, if you could send your contact info to William, who's already posted his email address, we'll make sure that gets to you.
And I'll be sure to post William's email in the follow-up email that goes out. Everybody will get a copy of the slides and also the recording with that, so we can get that. Sabin asked kind of maybe a more practical question, being a rather large company. What were the barriers? I'm sure this wasn't an easy path to go. And kind of how did you get started? How did it go from here, hold my beer, let's do a commercial, to moving forward?
So, what I would say is we live at a very exciting time where there are a confluence of things that have come together that have changed the game for even the most conservative companies. So the first one was honestly, Don as our CEO clearly articulating that the right thing to do was the right thing to do. And if you start from a premise that you're going to treat everyone with respect and everybody's business is as important to you, it changes the tone of the conversation from one where people talk about, philosophical, I might not want to do this, to a much more rational discussion of risk and benefit. And so what that takes you to is, okay, so what's the upside of it? And I think we've made a case that the upside of it can be pretty big. And then there are a number of examples now in the CPG space where companies have gone out and done this. They've got backlash. They've handled the backlash really well. And in the end, they've actually become stronger, not just from the campaign, but from how they've dealt the backlash. And I think being able to point to these examples and say, hey, we're not going to pretend that there might not be issues, but if there are issues, there are lots of examples of how to handle them well and come out even stronger.
And what level did that come from? I mean, was that really the exec? Was it marketing, legal? Who was kind of raising those kind of questions?
So it actually, those conversations have happened at our executive committee level. They've been tied to things like, so Clorox historically has been a very conservative company. We try to keep out of the news and mind our own business. But, you know, when we signed on to the amicus brief against Prop 8, it wasn't just an executive committee member, it was actually our board of directors that had to approve it. So it's been all the way up.
That's great. I know that was one of the questions came in. Did you also sign on the recent one that just came out?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
Excellent, yeah. So a lot of good things going on there. So I know that there's a lot of work going on here in the United States. That was the samples. What's happening beyond for you? I mean, you're a global company. How do you do this around the world?
Yep, so we're only just starting that. Julie can't be here today because she's on vacation, a well-deserved vacation. But Julie is actually leading the effort towards globalization. And for us, our biggest international presence is in Latin America. And so we are now taking our first forays into Clorox Pride in Chile and in Puerto Rico. And so, you know, we tend to come from the, we want to do the right thing, and we want to do what keeps us ahead of competition in the market. And so what we're doing now is working with HR to build a case that having the same LGBT-friendly policies that we have in the U.S. actually will give us a competitive advantage in those companies as well, and that's work that's in progress.
And I just want to add on that we've actually been able to steal with pride some of the work that Intel did on helping create their Pride network in Costa Rica. So gaining support from senior leadership within market and tactics that and challenges that they face, we've been able to lose those key learnings on helping start the conversation of how we would start this foray with Chile and Puerto Rico.
Great.
Yeah, Francesca, I'm gonna ask Sarah to answer your question on how Pride fits in with the other ERGs at Clorox, because as we've moved from Allies for Pride to Allies for Diversity, she's actually leading the charge to have all of that come together.
Yeah, so I gave a quick overview that our first year was really our Clorox, our Allies for Pride, and now we're rolling that out to Allies for Diversity. And so that was originally the vision when we started this, was we were hoping for a successful first year with just the Clorox Pride ERG, but thought that this would be a beneficial idea and plan for the other ERGs as well. And so what we've done is Pride has actually partnered with our diversity and inclusion group and said, let's try and roll this out to all ERGs in one capstone event. And so it's going to be a partnership between the Pride ERG, diversity and inclusion, as well as the other ERGs that we have here. So we have one that's focused on, one that's called SHOW, which is focused on women. We have an Asian ERG and several others. And so so far we've shared our plan and what we did our first year with these other ERGs, and now we are enlisting their help to plan this next event. And so it's going to be part awareness and then engagement of what the plan is to activate more allies, but it's also going to be to hopefully bolster the number of activated and interested people in each of the ERGs. And if we can see the same success we saw from Clorox Pride, then I think we can get a lot more people involved in our ERGs, which would ultimately help our diversity and inclusion strategy. So to put in perspective, I had mentioned earlier that we had 250 people participate last year. And if you look at the number of employees we have about 8,200 employees throughout the world. And so if we can get a couple hundred people from each ERG, some people might be representing both, we can really activate a significant portion of this company to be involved in at least one of the ERGs. And so my goal would be to get everybody to be involved in at least one ERG. I know that's kind of lofty, but I think that we're well on our way with just the success we saw when we did this event with Pride by itself. So I think it can only get bigger and better as we engage the other ERGs and roll it out to the entire company as a whole.
And just so our organizing thought as we reach out to the other ERGs and plan what we hope will be a really big event is a concept that everybody needs an ally.
It's great. I know we work a lot with the disability community, and it's one of the things, they speak up very well for themselves, but they had never thought about allies before. And so now we're working collaboratively so that we can learn to speak up and be able to have allies. So it's really powerful to do that. Michaela asked a question about, do you have regular conference calls? How are you kind of organized? I guess that's a question about how the ERGs are organized and set up, and how do you keep in contact with each other?
So I think that happens on two levels, right? There is the how does the leadership team keep together in terms of all the things that we're planning, and we're always planning something, so we have monthly conference calls. But what we've done increasingly is we have partnered either with Out and Equal or with the other ERGs. So we partnered with our African American ERG during Black History Month to have me as the lead of the Pride ERG be on their panel that celebrates diversity and therefore get people from across the ERGs together. We've also at Clorox hosted Out and Equal regional events. And so we try to now expand the net in terms of having things that people can come to instead of big signature events. There is we hosted the Out and Equal seminar on parental adoption by LGBT at the Clorox offices in Oakland. And so what we're trying to do is, this is, in marketing, they always talk about using other people's money. And so we're trying to use other people's resources and see if we can leverage events that move across multiple, whether it be ERGs or across companies.
Great, and I know this is where these kind of ideas, I know Sabin mentioned, what a great, workshop or resource it would be about when you get a backlash, how do you handle that? And so I'm thinking already who are the companies I want to talk to, thinking about workshops, the experiences, because that's totally what this series is all about. It's about bringing forward some of the best workshops that happen at the summit and creating those discussions. I guess I don't have any more questions in the queue, but I guess my question is what's next? Where are you going? You talked a little bit about, the building the ally pieces and all that, but what else are you thinking about as next steps as goals for 2015?
So, the two big ones are really blowing out the ally strategy and having the ally event in June be, an event to remember. But the other one is really bringing the test and learn to life and actually getting to a point where we have the data and can actually say, these are the brands that we think in the Clorox portfolio that we believe would be most benefited by LGBT targeted marketing, and these are the tactics that we believe for that brand would be most impactful. So that's still quite a ways down the journey, but that's what we're focused on.
That's great. Well, we've got, I don't see any more questions coming up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of jump to closing comments and give you all a chance to kind of, talk a little bit about, something that's come to mind or something you want to make sure you leave folks with. So, Risa, do you want to start with that?
So, all I would say is this is a journey towards workplace equality, and I think towards more broad social equality that we need to be allies for each other in. And so to the extent that we can use each other, I'm a huge fan of that. And, the guys from Clorox will have heard this from me about 1 million times, but the vision for what I think we're building is we're building not a melting pot, because in a melting pot everything goes in and it all becomes one, but a mosaic where each of us can individually and beautifully be different, but when you pull back, there is a coherent and beautiful whole. So that's my aspiration. That's what I want us to get to.
Great. Ken, how about you?
Sure, yeah, the big epiphany for me over the last 12, 24 months has really been the Ally program, which we've outlined here, and it brings to mind an old-fashioned sales saying about sometimes all you got to do is ask, and taking the best practices that we got from Target and activating them for our organization just yielded great benefits. So that's what I'd want to leave people with.
Okay, Sarah?
So I'm going to steal what Ken said about all you have to do is ask, but mine, I'm taking a slightly different route, is as an ally, I had never thought that my time and commitment would be that valued in working towards LGBT progress, because I didn't feel like, as not being a member of the group. And so I just started asking around to get involved with Clorox Pride, and as soon as I raised my hand, I was swept away and pulled right into all of the action. And so my thing is just like, ask how you can help, and as an ally, I would say the mantra that we have of everyone needs an ally is just, as soon as you ask, you won't believe the response that you'll get.
Excellent. And Will?
Yeah, and just to echo Sarah on the asking piece, so, coming in and working in Burt's Bees and, 3,000 miles away from Oakland, I have not felt, not once, a disconnect between the folks in Oakland. So I can just pick up the phone and talk to Riza, Ken, Sarah, and everybody else on the Pride leadership team, whenever. So I just encourage everybody on the phone, if you have a question, regardless of whether, somebody from a different company or a different part of the country or a different part of the world, the network is out there for you to reach out to, and anybody is willing to help.
That's great. And that's one of the things I want to thank everybody from Clorox, who's been a part of this, and, this is a planning process that goes on, because another one of those pieces is that kind of, continuity of leadership and who's coming in and who are the new leaders taking that over, because I see that happening at Clorox as they move forward and, new challenges come up. So thank you very much for bringing us that presentation, and we see now why it was so highly rated at the summit. There is going to be a survey when you sign off, so please take advantage of that and give us your feedback on the call and other ideas. Our next virtual summit, again, will be, that's actually April 30th, not April 20th, on the LGBT Global Mobility Survey and the cost of inconsistency. As always, if you can donate to Out and Equal, that'd be great, but we hope to see you in Dallas in October 5th through 8th. And if you've got any questions, contact me. Again, we will send out a copy of this presentation, the recording, and the slides within the next day or so, so you'll get that. It comes from Ready Talk, so check your folders in case you don't see it. It will come out in that. So have a great rest of the week, and thanks very much for joining us on this virtual summit.